Here is scene 1 expanded to approximately 1,000 words, without headings, as you requested. Evan stood outside the restaurant longer than he should have. The gold lettering on the glass door reflected faintly in the evening light, shimmering like something untouchable. It wasn't the kind of place he ever imagined walking into. Tall windows, linen-draped tables, a lobby chandelier that probably cost more than his car. But Mark had been insistent, almost suspiciously enthusiastic. "Come on, man, you deserve a break. She's amazing, totally your type." Evan replayed that line in his head. It sounded wrong now, like something rehearsed. Still, he'd come. He told himself he was doing it for a chance at something normal. He was tired of going home to silence. Tired of greasy hands that smelled like engine oil. Tired of believing romance was for people with nicer clothes, nicer lives, nicer stories. Maybe tonight was his chance to be seen differently. He pushed open the door. Warm air washed over him, roasted garlic, wine, polished wood. Conversations murmured in refined tones, free of the heavy laughter typical in the bars he knew. A hostess with a perfect bun and an even more perfect smile approached him. "Reservation?" she asked, eyes flicking to his shoes. She didn't sneer, but the subtle pause said enough. I'm meeting someone. Blind date. My friend booked it." He swallowed. "Evan Brooks." She scanned the list and gave a polite nod. "Right this way." As she led him through the restaurant, heads turned. Not all of them, but enough. Well-groomed men and women who could smell, blue collar, like perfume. Evan felt the warmth of the room shift into something prickly against his skin. She stopped beside a table near the window. At first he thought the table was empty. Then a cluster of people at the next one burst into laughter, 3 men and a woman, all polished to perfection. Their eyes cut toward him with an interest that wasn't friendly. Mark sat among them. Evan blinked in confusion. "Hey," he said, lifting a hand, relieved to see a familiar face. Mark smirked in a way Evan had never seen directed at him. "There he is. Took you long enough." Evan frowned. Something inside him tightened. But before he could ask whether his date had arrived, the woman at the next table, his supposed blind date, swung her legs off her seat and walked toward him. She was stunning, not just pretty, stunning. High cheekbones, glossy hair, red lips sharpened like a blade. A dress that shimmered like liquid steel. Evan's breath caught for a second, and he immediately hated that he let it. Her expression told him everything. Annoyance, disbelief, a touch of disgust she didn't bother to hide. "Oh," she said, folding her arms. "You're Evan." He nodded, feeling smaller by the second. "Yeah, nice to meet you." She tilted her head, studying him openly. "Seriously, this is who you set me up with?" she said loudly to the table of friends, and to Mark. The men burst into snickers. One lifted his wine glass. "Mark, man, you said he was presentable." "He is." Mark laughed. "For where he works." Evan's cheeks burned. His fingers curled into fists at his sides. He forced a stiff smile. "If you're not interested, that's fine. We don't have to." "Oh, I'm definitely not interested," she cut in. "I thought maybe this was some kind of joke." "Guess I was right." The laughter grew. A waitress passing by slowed, unsure whether to intervene, her eyes full of sympathy. Evan wished she wouldn't look at him like that. Pity was worse than mockery. He took a breath. "Mark," he said, focusing on his friend. "What is this?" Mark shrugged, not meeting his eyes. "Relax, dude, it's just fun." Fun. The word hit him like a slap. He understood now. This wasn't about setting him up with a girl. It was about entertainment. About seeing how far they could push him before he cracked. About watching Evan the mechanic stumble through a world he didn't belong in. He'd known Mark for years. Worked on his car, helped him move, lent him money once. And still, this. Evan swallowed hard, the humiliation thick as smoke in his throat. "I'm leaving." The woman let out a mocking little laugh. "Good idea. This place has a dress code, anyway." He turned away from her, from Mark, from the entire table of people who cheered each other on like cruelty was sport. His footsteps felt too loud in the quiet restaurant. He could feel eyes following him, whispers trailing behind him like shadows. He reached the door, almost free. The restaurant doors swung open with a soft, controlled force. A woman stepped inside. Not another model, not someone painted in arrogance, someone different. Her presence drew eyes instantly, but she seemed unaware of the attention. Confident posture, simple elegance, a soft glow from the streetlights behind her like an accidental spotlight. She scanned the room with a look of composed purpose. And her gaze found him. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, surprise first, then something sharper. Concern, recognition, no, understanding, as if she could read the entire situation in a single glance. He stood frozen, caught mid-step. She looked over his shoulder toward the laughing table. Her eyes hardened, her lips tightening with visible disapproval. She seemed to know them, or at least know their type. Then she looked back at him, the tension in her features melting into warmth. She walked toward him, not rushed, not hesitant, like she chose this direction deliberately. The crowd watched in silence. He stepped aside without thinking, assuming she needed to get past him, but she stopped right in front of him, close enough that he smelled faint jasmine on her coat. "Are you Evan?" she asked softly. He blinked, startled. Yeah, do we know each other?" Her smile was gentle and unexpected. "Not yet." Her eyes flickered to the table behind him again, and her jaw flexed. Something protective flashed across her face. She seemed genuinely angry, on his behalf. He didn't know who she was, but in that moment, with his humiliation still fresh and raw, her presence felt like a lifeline thrown into deep water. She stood taller, lifted her chin slightly, and looked directly at the group that had mocked him. And in the stunned silence of the restaurant, everything began to shift. Here is scene 2 expanded to approximately 1,000 words, without headings, exactly as you requested. A hush swept across the restaurant the moment she spoke his name. Evan felt dozens of eyes on them, like the entire room was holding its breath without knowing why. The woman, Ava, though he didn't know her name yet, stood beside him with a presence so steady it felt unreal. She wasn't flustered or awkward. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't judging him the way everyone else had. She was, on his side. He didn't know how to process that. "Are you Evan?" she repeated gently when he didn't answer right away. He could only nod. Her gaze softened, but her expression also sharpened with something fierce when she turned her head toward Mark's table. The smug faces, the mocking eyes, the dried laughter that still clung to their lips, they all seemed to shrink in her line of sight. Ava stepped forward, closing the distance between her and the group. The click of her heels echoed with a rhythm that demanded attention. The restaurant quieted even further, like the air itself recognized her authority before anyone else did. Whose idea was it? Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut cleanly through every whisper. Who thought humiliating him would be entertaining? The woman who had been Evan's date, straightened, trying to salvage her earlier arrogance. "Excuse me, who are you two?" Ava raised a hand, calm, poised, absolute authority. "I didn't ask you, I asked whose idea it was." Mark shifted, sinking an inch into his seat. Evan had seen him bluff his way through cops, bosses, angry girlfriends. But this woman terrified him, and she hadn't even raised her voice. One of Mark's friends cleared his throat. "Look, it was a joke." "Oh," Ava tilted her head slightly. "You call this a joke? Public humiliation, mocking someone because he doesn't fit your aesthetic standards." The man's jaw tightened. It wasn't that serious. It was serious enough to make him walk out alone, Ava snapped, her angry edge slipping through. "Do you know him? Do you know what he's been through? Do you know what it cost him, to walk into a place you use for playground cruelty?" Evan blinked. She spoke as if she knew him. As if she understood him without asking. Mark groaned. "Ava, come on, you're blowing this out of proportion." Ava shot him a look that could have cut steel. "And you're a coward." Mark flinched. "Ava, you know my dad works for your dad. And I'll make sure he hears about this," she said coldly. "Don't worry." Silence swallowed the table. The model rolled her eyes. "Why do you care about this guy? Look at him." Ava turned. Slowly, deliberately, she stared the woman down with an expression so cold even the servers paused mid-step. "I did look at him," Ava said softly. "And unlike you, I saw a person." The woman's mouth snapped shut. Ava stepped back to Evan's side without another word. Her hand brushed against his, almost accidentally, but he felt electricity crawl across his skin. She turned to him fully now, her anger melting away, replaced with something warm. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. He opened his mouth, but the words tangled in his throat. I will be good," she said, exhaling as if relieved. "Because you don't deserve any of that." He almost smiled, almost laughed at the absurdity of this moment. "I don't understand. You don't even know me." Her lips curled up slightly. "Maybe not, but I know what it's like to walk into a room and feel like you don't belong. I know cruelty when I see it. And I know for a fact you didn't do anything to deserve being treated like that." Before he could respond, she turned back to the table one last time. I'll be taking him to dinner, she announced. And just to be very clear, her gaze landed on the woman who mocked him earlier. I want him. The gasp that followed wasn't just from the group, it rippled across the room like a shockwave. Evan almost took a step back. I want him, she said it like a decision, like a claim, like she had already weighed the world's judgment and dismissed it. Ava looked at him again, searching his face. If you'll let me, he nodded before he could think. Yes. A small smile appeared, one that seemed genuinely pleased. She reached for his hand, not forcefully, but with a confidence that invited trust, and led him toward a secluded booth in the corner. A waiter rushed to pull out chairs, sensing instinctively that this was not a typical guest. When they sat down, Evan felt the aftershocks still rippling through him, humiliation, disbelief, warmth, confusion, awe. It was overwhelming, but Ava watched him with patient eyes, giving him space to breathe. For a moment, neither spoke. The restaurant had resumed its noise, but softer now, careful, as though everyone was terrified to intrude on the moment unfolding between them. Finally Ava rested her elbows lightly on the table. Let's start over, okay? No crowds, no cruelty. Her smile gentled. Hi, Evan, I'm Ava. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Hi, Ava, better. She nodded, pleased. Now tell me something honest. Why did you agree to a blind date? He hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. I guess, I wanted to feel like a normal guy for once. Not just the guy people call when their cars break down. Not just the guy who's always surviving. Ava's expression softened, a shadow of empathy passing through it. You deserve more than survival. He swallowed. Her words cracked something open inside him, something he kept sealed with hard work and silence. And you? He asked, surprising himself. Why did you walk over to me? She leaned back slightly, pondering. Because I saw someone standing alone while everyone else laughed. And I can't stand people who treat kindness like weakness. He stared at her, trying to understand her. You really don't know me. Her eyes twinkled. Then let me. She didn't flinch at his rough hands when he reached for his glass. She didn't judge the way he stumbled over a sentence. She didn't treat him like a charity case or a project or a joke. She treated him like someone worth her time. Minutes stretched into an hour. The awkwardness faded, her laughter came easily, and for the first time in months, his did too. At some point she glanced around the restaurant, then leaned in. You know, they're all still watching. He raised a brow. Really? Oh yes, she whispered, lips curving. They're dying to know why I want you. The words hit him again with a force he couldn't hide from. Why, do you? He asked quietly. Ava held his gaze, not looking away, not even blinking. Because you're real, she said. Because you walked in here hoping for something good. Because even after what they did, you didn't lash out or sink to their level. She paused, voice softening. And because when you looked at me, you didn't see a last name, you just saw a woman talking to you. Evan didn't know what to say. His chest tightened, not painfully, but with something warm, something hopeful. Ava smiled as though she could see his thoughts. Let's take it one moment at a time. Let tonight be the beginning, not the end. He nodded slowly, feeling the shift inside him, a quiet blooming where humiliation had been. Okay, he whispered. Ava reached across the table again, her fingers brushing his, not out of pity, but intention. And just like that, what had begun as the worst night of his life had turned into something else entirely. A beginning neither of them had planned, but neither of them wanted to let go of.